Right now, if your baby cries in the middle of the night, you pick them up. If they get a fever, you call a doctor. If they need to eat, food is one room away. None of that existed for 300,000 years. For almost the entirety of human history, roughly half of all children died before they turned 15. Not in some tribe far away, everywhere. Every family, every generation, and yet the species survived. So how did they do it? Because it wasn't luck, and it wasn't toughness. It was a system, a brutal, brilliant system that kept just enough children alive to keep humanity going, and most of us have no idea it ever existed. Let's start with how bad it actually was. Anthropologists Hillard Kaplan and Kim Hill spent years studying hunter-gatherer societies like the Ache of Paraguay and the Hadza of Tanzania. Their data was staggering. In these societies, roughly 40 to 50% of children died before reaching adulthood. Not from war, not from famine most of the time, from infection, from falls, from snake bites, from things a modern emergency room would fix in an afternoon. A mother in the deep past could expect to bury nearly half the children she gave birth to. This wasn't tragedy in the way we understand it today. It was expected, it was planned for, and entire cultures built themselves around surviving it. So the first rule of keeping a child alive was simple: never put them down. In the 1970s, anthropologist Melvin Connor lived among the Jew/hoansi of the Kalahari and timed something nobody had bothered to measure before: exactly how much physical contact infants had with an adult. The answer was almost constant contact for the first year of life. Babies were carried upright, skin against skin, nursed on demand roughly every 13 minutes throughout the day. Not on a schedule, not when convenient. Every cry answered almost instantly. Compare that to a modern crib in a separate room with a monitor. For nearly the entire span of human evolution, a baby left alone for even a few minutes was a baby in danger. Predators, cold, injury, all of it happened in the gap between a cry and a response. So evolution built infants to scream immediately and built mothers to respond immediately. And the ones who didn't simply didn't pass on their genes. But here's what almost nobody realizes. It wasn't just the mother keeping that child alive. In 1999, primatologist and anthropologist Sarah Blaffer Hrdy published research that overturned decades of assumption about the nuclear family. She argued that humans are, biologically, cooperative breeders. Not like lions where the mother does it alone. More like wolves or elephants. Hrdy found that in hunter-gatherer societies, an infant was regularly held, fed, and protected by 10 to 20 different people before its first birthday. Grandmothers, aunts, older siblings, even unrelated group members. Hrdy called them allomothers. And she argued this wasn't a nice cultural bonus, it was the actual reason human children survive at all. Human babies are born more helpless for longer than almost any other species. No single adult, however devoted, has enough hands, enough milk, or enough energy to keep one alive alone. It took a village. Not as a saying, as a survival requirement. And there's one member of that village who mattered more than almost anyone. In the 1990s, anthropologist Kristen Hawkes was studying the Hadza when she noticed something strange. Women who could no longer have children of their own were among the hardest workers in the entire camp. They dug for tubers for hours every single day and gave almost everything they gathered to their grandchildren. Hawkes ran the numbers and found something remarkable. Children with an active grandmother were significantly more likely to survive to adulthood than children without one. This became known as the grandmother hypothesis, and it may be part of the reason human females evolved to live decades past menopause. Something almost no other mammal does. Evolution didn't just keep mothers alive to raise children, it kept grandmothers alive to keep the mother's children alive. Then there's the thing every single one of those caregivers was working around: breastfeeding. In hunter-gatherer societies, children were nursed for an average of 2.5 to 4 years, not months. Among the Ife of the Congo, infants might nurse from multiple women in the group, not just their own mother. This wasn't indulgence. Breast milk was the only sterile, calorie-dense, immune-boosting food available in a world with no clean water and no refrigeration. It also did something else. Constant nursing suppresses ovulation, which meant mothers typically didn't get pregnant again for 3 to 4 years after giving birth. That gap wasn't an accident either. It was the minimum time a child needed before it could walk, forage, and survive without being carried every hour of the day. Your body's spacing between pregnancies, the exhaustion your ancestors felt, nursing through the night, all of it was a survival algorithm running for hundreds of thousands of years before anyone understood why. But then there's the part almost nobody wants to talk about. In many traditional cultures, from parts of West Africa to the Arctic, children weren't given a permanent name until they survived their first year, sometimes their first several years. Anthropologists studying these practices found the same explanation again and again. Naming a child made losing them harder, so parents delayed it, not out of coldness, but as a kind of emotional armor against a loss that was almost guaranteed to come for someone even if not for them. Some cultures went further, describing infants who died young as never having fully arrived yet, as spirits who hadn't decided to stay. It wasn't denial. It was a survival strategy for the mind, built the same way carrying and nursing were survival strategies for the body. Grief, at that scale, needed a system too. Every piece of this, the constant carrying, the allomothers, the grandmothers, the years of nursing, the delayed naming, it all existed for one reason. Because a child left unguarded for even a few hours in the ancient world had a real chance of not seeing tomorrow. You didn't survive infancy because you were strong. You survived because an entire network of people, most of them not your parents, decided your survival was their job too. Today, you can leave a baby monitor on in another room and call that safe. Your ancestors needed 10 to 20 people paying attention at all times, and it still wasn't always enough. We like to think of parenting as something one or two people figure out alone in a house. But that's not how we were built to survive. For 300,000 years, keeping a child alive was never a private job. It was the whole camp's job, every single day for years. And the fact that you're alive to watch this video means somewhere back down your family line, that system never failed. Not once. Not for thousands of generations in a row.